Today's show on Jeff and the Rabbi is going to make Jeff and the Rabbi history. It's going to make internet television history. You all saw the last episode of MASH. Remember that one, how big that was? You saw the episode when Johnny Carson said goodbye to the Tonight Show.
Yeah,
Walter Cronkite, goes off the air on CBS News. Even that, what was that, Flintstones episode when Barney and Wilma took that vacation in the Hamptons. You'll remember that one. Now, these are all big television events. None of them will compare to what's going to happen today on Jeff and the Rabbi.
Wow.
I'm going to put it to you this way. Rabbi Freidman over here, our beloved Rabbi Freidman, the man that you and I both go to for mentoring, our spiritual leader, emotional leader,
guide,
seer, the man that we go to for our questions about life. That same Rabbi Freidman today is going to take on the biggest risk and challenge of his career, operating without a net. Rabbi Freidman is going to go on and make his point. His argument today, Rabbi Freidman's argument today will be that our president, the President of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, the same Barack Hussein Obama, BHO, who gave the 1967 border speech about Israel, the same BH Obama, who befriends famed anti-Semites like Bill Ayers and Louis Farrakhan and Rashid Khalidi, that Barack Hussein Obama. The same Barack Hussein Obama who made good buddies with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. That Barack Hussein Obama. The same guy who said, Iran, nuclear power, what F? What are you going to do? Nuclear power. What are they going to do with it? Bomb Israel? That Barack Hussein Obama, our beloved rabbi, our spiritual leader today, is going to, first, wake the grandma, bring in the pets. You got to hear this. This one's going to be a big one. Our rabbi today is going to make the point that Barack Obama is not only a friend to the Jews, but probably the best thing that's ever happened to the Jews in history.
Well, I don't know about that.
It's my setup. It's my promo. Let me go. Don't stop me here. So bring in everybody. This is the show that you're going to wait for. It might be the last time you see Rabbi Freidman here on this show.
That's right.
So bring them all in, and let's hear what the guys got to say.
Next week it's going to be Jeff and Rabbi Nancy.
Rabbi Nancy show. And he's a nice guy, Nancy. I met him down at the shul downtown.
That's right.
So he's good. So here we go, and without any further ado, because I think I've given ado enough.
A lot to do, much to do. Yeah.
Rabbi Freidman, take it away.
Okay. What I want to try to do is recalibrate. And I have to give credit where credit is due. And I must say that this was not my idea. Not that I was put up to it by anyone.
He's backing out. He's backing out.
No. I want to say that there is a rabbi, his name is Avi Shafran. And Avi Shafran is he is the talking head for one of the large rabbinic organizations in America. And he writes a lot of op-ed pieces and shows up now and then in the New York Times and stuff like that. And he actually wrote a piece which he said, it's called Enemies Real and Imagined. And he really says that BHO, Barack Hussein Obama, is not an enemy of the Jewish people and that he's getting a bad rap. Now, of course, when I saw that, I was kind of feeling like maybe the other way. And I picked it up and I read with skepticism. However, by the time I got to the end of his article, I felt that he had made a valid case. Not an ironclad case, but at least an arguable case. An arguable case. But I want to bring up something that he only alluded to, which I want to really expand on. In the Torah, it says, and this is really, really the core, whether we debate this one particular man, the current president of the United States, however we judge him, maybe right, maybe wrong. I mean, Avi Shafran doesn't really know him all that well, and neither do you, and neither do I. So what's really going on inside of his head, I don't know, who knows, but so we'll never really know for sure. But in general, I can talk about a principle of Torah. Torah principle, I'm more.
That's your specialty.
Right. Now I'm back on a little bit more solid ground, getting out of politics, getting back to Torah. Okay, so if I talk about Torah principle, there is a verse in the Torah And it says, do not treat an Egyptian abominably, for you were once a stranger in their land.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if you recall, the time that we spent in Egypt was not the most pleasant.
It was not.
I think, that's, we all know. But anyone's ever been to the Passover Seder, you pretty much know, hard labor, Pharaoh, the whips, the labor, the children in the river, and all this horrible stuff. And yet the Torah says, don't treat them abominably because you were a stranger in their land. And they took you in, and they took care of you. Now, that's kind of interesting. What do you mean they treated us horribly?
Right.
Well, what the Torah is teaching us is that there is a rule, and the rule is known as what we say in the Hebrew terminology that's in common parlance to refer to this is hakarat hatov, recognizing the good that someone does. We have to be cognizant and appreciative of good wherever it is done for us.
Okay.
When we cannot expect or demand that everyone is just supposed to be good to us, so whenever someone does something good, even if it's not as good as we'd like, but we have to see the good in it. The Jews lived in Egypt for 210 years. It's a long time. Most of that time, they lived pretty well. And the bottom line is, even when they lived in slavery and were treated badly, well, they were hosted by the Egyptians. So therefore, we do have to recognize the fact that the Egyptians did something for us, which tells us that we are supposed to be grateful people.
Wow.
Okay, so now here we are in this current host country. Current host country is the United States of America. We've been in a lot of countries along the way.
We have.
Okay. We've been in a whole slew of them, and some of them were nicer than others to us. Generally, they all kind of ended. Whether they were nice or not, it all sort of up till now has had a bad ending. I guess just about every single one. So far, the United States iteration seems to be working out pretty well. We hope that this one maybe concludes well too. But
Germany was pretty good for a while too.
Germany was good. Spain was good.
Right.
Poland was good. As a matter of fact, everyone was good until it went bad.
Okay.
Every one of them. I mean, down the line. Down the line. I don't think that there is a particular country that we ever left under pleasant circumstances. And we've left, more countries than you can shake a stick at. I mean, if you're a country, we left you at some point or another. And it usually wasn't pleasant.
And it usually wasn't our choice. Right.
Right. That's right. We've left everywhere. No, usually when we were there, at first things were good and then they went bad. So now we've done this United States thing, and so far we're here, and things, by and large, I think you'd have to say things are doing well.
Right.
People have prospered, and you're so far you can even have a Torah program on the internet, and not broadcasting from underground, and we don't have to worry. We're not worried someone's going to break in the door and haul us up.
Just in case, let's not give the address.
Right.
We're somewhere in Iowa, but anyway.
That's right. With the wonders of the internet.
Can't tell.
That's right. That's right. We're using as our cover. We say that we're in Atlanta.
Right.
Not a chance. So here we are in this country. Now, that means is that when we go to evaluate the country that is our host, and I guess the person who is the head of that country, who's, I guess, the chief host, that would be the President of the United States. Right. So you have to evaluate that person differently than you would evaluate any other person that you have demands or expectations from. If you have an employee, you expect something, and if I don't get everything that I'm expecting, then that's it.
Right.
But if you have a host, and the host is being gracious enough to host you, then you have to say, well, listen, I might not be getting everything I want, but I'm not really in a position when I sit down to the host's table at night and they put dinner on the table and say, I'm sorry, like we had chicken last night. I would like something there. You just can't do that.
That's true.
You can't. If the guy puts poison on your table, it's one thing. But there's parameters, and they're much more restricted. So this Rabbi Avi Shafran, he takes a look at Barack Obama, and he says, has the guy really done anything bad to Israel? So these are the facts that he cites, the facts. But I'm saying, when we look at it from the perspective of, is he done everything that we want him to do for us? No. And do I necessarily agree with his economic policies, social theories, all kinds of stuff? No. But has he been bad? If we're only looking at it through the prism of, has he been bad to the Jews or good to the Jews, meaning just, one way or another. Not good the way I want it to be, but just in an absolute sense.
By Jews, do you mean Goldman Sachs, or do you mean like the common everyday Jews?
Yeah, I'm talking about, let's say, Israel.
Okay.
Let's just talk Israel. Let's just focus on Israel.
Fair enough.
Okay? So, he spoke in 2009 in Cairo to the Muslim world. We all remember that. That was kind of like and we all walked away from that like, right?
Very much, yeah.
All the Jews were like, oh my gosh, he's like, this is it. This is like, what we were all afraid of. There it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, now, he did say, he made an argument at that time, and you can replay the tapes. He did make an argument for Muslim acceptance of Israel and rejection of terrorism. That was part of the speech. He did say in there that the Muslim world should accept Israel. Now, he also said that Israel has legitimacy because of the Holocaust.
Which is code for, that's the only reason they have legitimacy.
Yeah, now that could be true. However, do I have a right to expect Barack Obama to come at the understanding of Israel from, let's say, a biblical perspective?
No.
I mean, come on. I might say, listen, we're this ancient people and all that. Barack Obama steps into the world when he steps into the world, and here he is, and he looks around and he hears that there was this Holocaust and 6 million people got killed, and he might be wondering, like, why a bunch of basically Caucasian-looking folks would want to be living in Israel as opposed to California. And someone tells him, well, they killed 6 million of them, and he read about that. He says, well, it makes a lot of sense. They want their own place, and so they have this historical connection to that place, so that's what they want. It's not crazy. I mean, would you call a guy evil for making that connection?
That connection, I wouldn't say evil. I would say a lack of some knowledge that a man running for president or becoming president should have, but okay.
I'm not going to call him evil, but it's not.
I'll give you that.
It's
no
kind
evil
of like,
there.
it's not like, it's okay, I understand. Maybe not the way I understand it, but okay. Now, let's go. There was a Durban conference. You've heard of the Durban conference. Durban conference is just the big anti-Semitic, hate fest.
Party.
Right?
It's party. It's
Okay.
like Lollapalooza for anti-Semites.
Right. Well, you know that the United States does not go to the Durban conference, and that's under Barack Obama, they stopped going to the Durban conference.
Okay.
Okay, he told him, no Durban conference.
Okay.
Now, you could have said he wanted to play ball with them, go, and da-da-da-da. No Durban
Sort of like
conference.
with the condemnation over the blockade. Well, there's a lot of it, but anyway, I get okay.
He didn't go to the Durban conference.
He didn't, no.
You can't fault him for that.
No,
right?
no, you cannot.
Might not have done as much as you wanted him to do, but didn't go. There was a Goldstone report, right? We all know about that.
Absolutely.
That was like condemnation of Israel and all that. Okay. He rejected it. Officially, they rejected the Goldstone report. They did not allow it to be accepted as official.
True.
Okay. Now, how about the Iron Dome? Where was it funded? We all know about the Iron Dome. We've heard about the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome, brought down, 500 to 1,000 missiles that were headed at Jewish population centers just recently. Funding came from
the U.S., but the U.S. is a pretty strong. There's a good, strong Jewish lobby, and just to add, I don't want to ruin your argument here, but just to add, right now I've heard recently that he's blocked military equipment that our military, that our army was sending. He blocked it.
Okay.
Never happened before.
Okay, that's true. Did he block the Iron Dome?
Funding, no.
No, did not block the Iron Dome funding. All I'm saying is he might not be what I would like him to be like. I would like him to be like Mr. Loving Israel. This is an issue that I realized when looking at, I was looking at CNN coverage.
What is that? Yeah, I've never been to that one.
Right.
Oh, that's one down the thing from Fox. Okay,
Yeah,
that's sure. I've never been.
So I was watching that, and I'm also listening to NPR, and these are all letters that Jeff doesn't not familiar with those combinations.
Oh,
okay.
no.
Yeah, you know what that is? You know?
That one I heard of. I'm a little dyslexic, so
WWF and
right.
like SEC. That's also a big
that
one.
Jeff
knows
that one I do know.
Right. So I was watching them, and I was saying, are these people biased against Israel, or they're pro-Arab? And you know what? I realized it was when I was all done watching. I said, you know what? I think that they're even-handed. Now, you know what the problem is? I don't think that the issue is even-handed.
Well, that's clear.
I personally don't think that it's even-handed, but they say they're trying to be even-handed, 50-50, and they actually were 50-50.
I got to call again this one.
Yeah.
That's the oldest trick in the book. Well, you got to bear. Well, it's like saying your president says, well, the last president did this. It doesn't work there. There are some things there's two sides to a story. When you have a terrorist group that's killing people and putting women and children around missiles, and then the other side is trying to defend lives, there's no two sides to that story.
If I am
you're
CNN or NPR,
right.
If I'm going to those places and I'm going to put news out, and I've got a whole bunch of people listening to me. I've got some Jews, and I've got some not Jews. As a matter of fact, there are probably more not Jews than Jews, are people that are on this side of the issue and that side of the issue. So what can I be expected to do? Now, again, going back to the same, with the standard by which we judge them, I believe that we cannot expect people like that to take up the Jewish cause. We can expect and hope, certainly hope, that they won't be anti, and if they're not anti, and even if they're even-handed, and I don't think it's even-handed, because since I'm Jewish, I think we should certainly be pro-Israel, but even if it's even-handed, I can't fault the guy. I can't fault the guy because I have no right to demand that he's pro-Israel. I can hope and have to be thankful if he's not anti-Israel, because I think that would be wrong to be anti. But to expect him to be pro, where do I get the right to expect him to be pro?
I can't argue with you there. I can't, but I disagree with where you came to this. I believe he is as anti-Israel as you can get, and I think I have a lot of information that can back that up. Does your rabbi talk about the fact that Barack Hussein Obama belonged to one of the most anti-Semitic organizations for about 20 years, brought his family up there, married his wife in that organization, raised his children to an organization that is openly anti-Israel. Does your rabbi talk about that?
No.
And that's not just some crazy little reverend. That's the organization.
Right. So what he's saying is not getting into the guy's head, not getting into. We want to see actions. What have been the results? What actions have issued forth from the mouth or the pen of this person?
Calling me.
You in the front.
Well, some actions. Let's see. 5 years ago, we were worried about Iran getting a nuclear weapon.
Right.
And the President of the United States stood up and said, we will do that. Iran will not get nuclear power. They will not. I guarantee you that. I'll stand it. He's done nothing. We are now sitting there with centrifuges twirling away right now in nuclear power. Now, we know Iran, one of the most oil-rich nations in the world, doesn't need nuclear power for power. They've got oil. We know exactly what they want it for. And there's no one, and maybe except for, and unless you're saying that Barack Obama does believe they have good intentions, everyone knows what they want a nuclear power for. They want to make a bomb. They want to destroy Israel. They say it.
Right.
So forgetting about everything else you just said there, you asked for one example. That policy is either born out of ignorance toward what's going on in the Middle East or born out of a dislike for the Jewish people in Israel.
It could be, except that policy has not taken fruit. Of course, now the time when it finally does, you'll say, well, it'll be a mushroom cloud and it'll be way too late.
Well, taking fruit, when you see the fact that, could you imagine any other leader in the United States of America allowing Iran, a terrorist nation, to have centrifuges spinning and working right now?
Well, there was once a president and his name was Ronald Reagan. Sit. Okay,
remember him.
right?
I was gonna
Ronald
stand up.
Reagan. Okay, and there was once a country named Iraq, and there was a guy named Saddam Hussein, and he built a nuclear reactor.
I remember.
And Israel wanted it taken out, and Ronald Reagan said absolutely not, and they went ahead and they did it anyway. And you know what Ronald Reagan did afterwards? He condemned them.
But are you absolutely positive that Ronald Reagan didn't tell them to go ahead and do it on their own under the table?
Well, okay, so this brings us to a very interesting.
Right.
This brings us to, are you absolutely positive as to what the current president is saying under the table behind the scenes? I don't know.
Well, I heard what he said off mic about the guy, the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah,
so.
okay, but a lot of people say a lot of things up mic.
Never about me.
Yeah,
but, no.
So I don't know. I don't know. You may be right. You may be right, and this might lead to something really bad. On the other hand, you might not be. All I can do at this point is deal with the actions that we've seen and the speculation. Yeah, you're right.
So it's possible then Louis Farrakhan, for example, loves the Jews. It's totally possible. I mean, because these guys were friends. These were friends.
But Louis Farrakhan has spewed hatred about Jews.
Would you go hang out with him and his
I don't
family?
know, but I
Obama
don't think that you've ever heard Obama spewing hatred about Jews. You might feel that his policies are endangering Jews, but at this point, none of his actions have been anti-Jewish, or none of his statements have been anti.
Let me just ask you again. Now, the 1967 border speech, you know, the one with the Muslim Brotherhood was sitting in the front row of that speech.
Right.
If Israel were to follow what Barack Obama demanded, that Israel goes back to its 1967 borders, how would that work out for Israel, in your opinion? Not as a Jew, but as a historical watcher of things that happened.
I would think that would be bad for Israel.
I think there probably wouldn't be much of Israel left after that.
However, let's say you really honestly believed that the Arabs are, they're straight up guys, and as long as they get their territory, they would want to get along.
If I believe that, please don't vote for me for president. Right. If I'm not ignorant, don't vote for me for president.
But if you believe that, then the statement, I'm not trying to get anyone hurt, I just think that if you play both of them, if you share your candy, then everyone will be happy. Now, if the kid's a bully and he won't share, that's one thing, but what if you really honestly believe he will share?
Do you believe Barack Obama honestly believes that?
I don't know what he believes. I mean, I really haven't ever spent any time with the guy.
We should be more scared than we were before the show started.
I know what he believes. I believe that he is pretty much a Marxist.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
He said he is. I mean, the statements that he's made.
His whole life he said that, right.
His social policies, I believe that he is very much, he is for gay marriage, he is for, he said he is. I know that he really believes in distribution of the wealth. He said he is. I know that his goal is to make sure that, everybody, his priority is to elevating underprivileged, underclass of the United States. He said he is. That much I know.
So what's
his attitude towards the Jews? That I don't know.
So we like that one Jew, Karl Marx. Okay, we got one.
Right.
So he's got one Jew under his belt.
No, I really think that, but I don't fault him, by the way, even for that, because he campaigned on that.
Oh, you're right.
He didn't do anything. He didn't lie. He was straight out. He was really straight up. Now, I happen to disagree with those positions, but he's been very straight about it. So now, when it comes to the Jews, I don't have a clear-cut statement that says one way or another. All I got is a bunch of actions, and to date, and anything can change at any time, but to date, the actions are not so bad.
Well, one thing I want to bring up. You brought up at the beginning of your very powerful argument here.
Right. And there's more, but
you brought up, listen, you go into somebody's home, you're a guest in their home, they serve you dinner, you can't complain because they're being a host. You should be thankful for their host. Now, just as a good, something to relate to this, it's well known that in an Arab society, you could be their enemy. You go in there and they have to host you. They have to serve you dinner. They're not going to serve you poison. They have to treat you well when you're in their house. The second you walk out of that tent, though, that could be the end of it.
Walk out backwards. Right.
So all I'm saying here is,
it could change. It could change. But to label the guy whatever statements that we are worried about, and I've heard all the worrisome statements too, but I'm just saying the facts are the United States and Israel, just to throw out another one, conducted the largest joint American-Israeli military exercise in history. Okay? He's supported and even copied and used the whole Israel drone assassination type of thing.
Right.
And they went after bin Laden, right? And and he took some heat for that because all the leftists don't like it. Okay? He recently, just very, very recently, when this guy Hadar Golden was, they thought that he was captured. Turned out he wasn't captured, but they thought that he had been captured. So he publicly demanded his return, and
publicly demanded that Israel stop what they're doing and truce after truce after truce after truce to stop them from winning. Right?
And by the way, it's a lot of people held against him the conversation he had with Netanyahu, which has not been verified by anyone.
But no one's denied it either.
Well, no, the only two people that denied it were Netanyahu and Obama. They both officially denied it. So we don't know for a fact. I mean, listen, I'm not in the guy's office.
I saw Netanyahu, his fingers crossed. I saw that when he said that.
I'm not listening. They didn't patch me in on the call. So
I was on the call.
Now, I don't know. Now the fact that he is standing up for all these Gaza citizens, I mean, what do you expect the guy is going to do? Do you think he's going to say, listen, he's going to tell Israel, I think they just nuke them, take them all out?
I mean, sort of like what George Bush said, go in, do what you got to do. Here's the rope. Do it.
If George Bush said that, he might be a really nice guy, and I like him. I always have been kind of a fan of him.
Right.
The fact that the next guy doesn't do that it's not crazy.
I mean, it's not crazy. The guy gave away Israel's plans of buying that, taking a little thing in southern Turkey. He said they can go in and take out Iraq. Someone gave away those plans. Could have been Barack Obama. That's what we heard. I don't know.
It could have been.
That's what they suspect.
So all I'm saying is that there is this Torah principle of hakarat hatov, recognizing good. Now we know that Pharaoh was bad. Pharaoh was bad.
Yep.
Pharaoh's on record. Right?
On record as bad.
Pharaoh is on record as being bad. Pharaoh said, "Who is this God? I don't recognize him." He said it straight out. Pharaoh is on record as being bad. Obama is not on record as being bad. We suspect. To date, he hasn't done any bad actions. Maybe some of the actions he has taken will turn bad, but to date, he's not identifiably bad, and therefore, as Jews, we have to be recognizing and appreciative.
Well, I think we are pretty well. 70% of us voted for the guy, so I think you've got a good point there.
Well, listen, I know he's got lots of policies in a lot of different areas, and I may agree with them or disagree with them. All I'm saying is, and certainly, you have to be watchful, and I don't think that he's necessarily like Israel's biggest friend ever. But I certainly see that, getting back to Rabbi Shafran, I think at first when someone told me, says, you got to see this article, and I'm thinking whoa, I think Rabbi Shafran has been eating too many mushrooms. And
I'm still there on that one, but yeah.
And then I read the article and I see he's got an argument. That's all.
Well, there was a great argument for Hitler. I mean, there's arguments for Pharaoh.
By the way, there were Jews, even Orthodox Jews, that were supportive of Hitler in the very beginning, because he was bringing law and order back to the chaos in the streets, and Germany had really become very degenerate.
There was a good argument for him. I mean, there was. I mean, just people who were able to see through the yelling and the screaming probably figured out in the long run it wasn't going to work out too well.
The only thing is that he actually wrote a book.
Well, okay.
And he wrote a book, and in the book he said the Jews are like the evilest thing, and the whole goal of life is to get rid of them. I don't think, Obama might have written a book where Obama might have said we should redistribute the wealth.
He said it. He said it.
That's fine. But he didn't say Jews are the evilest thing in the world.
No, he didn't say it, but he made it pretty clear, like when he said that he learned everything he knew from the Middle East from his friend Rashid Khalidi, who was a member of the PLO. When you say statements like that, intelligent people should look and say, maybe it's not going to work out that well.
So I would think This is,
Right.
my last point.
Okay.
Being a buddy of like, Rashid Khalidi and guys like
Robinson,
Ayers and all these
there,
people, right? I would have actually expected him to be bad.
I would have too. Actually, I did.
So I think that you'd have to at least say, given where he's coming from, he's been a lot more moderate than the bettors. If the bettors would have said, like it's like, preseason, the preseason score that you bet
Right.
on, I think that you would have not expected a lot of these things. I would have expected him to like go to the Durban conference. I would expect him to try to hold back money from the Iron Dome. I would expect him to,
to out Israel's nuclear program. Oh no, he did that.
Everybody did that.
But he officially did it.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that we could have expected, and I expected a lot worse from him. At this point, I think he hasn't been bad. Good? I don't know. I mean, he's done some good stuff. He certainly hasn't been as bad as what I would have thought the Reverend
Wright.
Reverend Wright. Yeah, I certainly didn't think that a disciple of Reverend Wright would have taken some of the decisions that he did.
He's got 2 more years.
We'll see.
2 more years.
We'll see.
Well,
But I think that's our job. Our job, again, get back to Torah says that we have to show recognition to who we deserve showing recognition to. And again, get back to the story of Egypt. The first 2 plagues were blood, the river turned into blood,
yep.
and frogs. The frogs came out of the river. And the third one was lice. Okay. Now, if you read in the 10 plagues, who did the 10 plagues?
God.
Yeah, who was the guy that working for God that brought them on?
Moses.
Moses. Except, if you read carefully, you'll see that Aaron did the first 3.
He did, yes.
And why did Aaron do the first 3? Because it meant hitting the river and hitting the dirt. Now, the river and the dirt both played prominently in the Moses story. Moses was put in the basket, sent down the river, and basically was saved by being floating down the river. And then Pharaoh's daughter and all that. The dirt also saved Moses when he hit the Egyptian. He buried him in the dirt and it gave him time to escape. Okay? So in both of those cases, when it's time now, years later, to bring plagues, God says to Moses, you cannot hit the river. That's an act of violence against the river, and the river was good to you.
Okay.
You can't hit the dirt because that's an act of violence against dirt, and the dirt was good to you. Now, if we have to be sensitive to dirt and water, I mean, do you think the river is going, oh, well, thank God someone showed me a little respect? That the dirt says, well, thank God, that dirt doesn't know anything. The lesson is to Moshe. You have to be sensitive to anything around you that has done something good for you. But dirt is just dirt. And it raises our sensitivity. So I think for us, I would say, so far, so good. It hasn't been bad. So for us, that's good. And God willing, it should continue to go that way. It's certainly, and you know why I call it good? I call it good because it certainly wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Because I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this. Especially, when he went over to speak to the in that Cairo speech, I thought, we are done for now.
I thought, after written for it, and still a little worried.
But it hasn't played out that badly, or even badly. There's been a lot of tension, and we all know the Netanyahu, Obama stuff, and all that stuff. I don't know. Maybe Netanyahu showed him up or whatever. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know about that. But even that hasn't played badly yet. God willing, it should only continue. If it doesn't get any worse, then I would have to say we give him marks for good marks. Marxist may give him good marks for not being a bad guy.
Well, all I know, interesting. I know. Listen, I already hear what the CNN headline is going to be in this one because they listen classically. Jewish rabbi compares president to dirt. So at least you'll be all right. I think that's where they're going here.
Now, I really think, though, the guy that should really be showing some recognition to me is Avi Shafran. Because, you know, he could get published in the New York Times and all that stuff, but, you know, when you get pub on Jeff and the Rabbi, I mean, come on, that is priceless.
That's priceless, and this guy should be thanking you.
That is priceless. I mean, I'm going to make this guy into something.
I got to tell you, well, you guys should be passing this show around because something happened here today. Well, all I can say is we'll see you next week on the Jeff and the Jeff Show. And maybe, possibly, the Rabbi. We'll see if he makes it back next week.
We'll see who is going to be the Rabbi next week.
Who will be in this chair next week. All right, well, you heard it here. Spread this one around. See you next week.